Hey everyone, and welcome to the Carrier Update presented by PowerFleet. So we have made it through the third week of January, which is traditionally one of the softest, slowest weeks of the year. Congratulations, you made it to Friday. Let's check out what we're seeing. So tender rejection index over here, a little bit flat throughout the week, and then all of a sudden we had one of the biggest single day over day declines in the index since early January, when we were coming out of this big holiday period where we're coming out of Christmas, capacity was returning online rapidly, et cetera. So 7.12% tender rejection rate nationally. So what that means is we think that that's going to continue throughout the week. Next week, we should get a little bit softer going into the end of the month, but then we may see a little intermittent disruption from that. You see a little bit of an increase towards the end of the week as we close out the month. Isolated spots across the country tend to get a few little disruptions here and there as the capacity starts to be disrupted by surging volumes in isolated markets. So looking at the weighted rejection index across the country, a lot of red here. Iowa, of course, is having some trouble covering stuff. We've had a lot of weather here in Iowa, continuous flow of Midwestern storms, a lot of snow, a lot of ice around the Kansas City, St. Louis area this week. So it has created a little bit of disruption there. The northern tier of the United States actually coming back down. We're seeing rejections come back down to earth, not as unstable as we've seen over the past few weeks. Some of the larger markets, however, in the country, these tend to be where carriers go this time of year to find freight because volumes are a lot higher here. They're safe, they're good, lots of traffic, lots of activity there, so you're going to be able to pick up freight. But we're seeing, numerous spots of decline. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, out here in the northern part of California, the Pacific Northwest finally calming down. But Los Angeles over here, over the last few days, has actually started to pick back up a little bit, coming back to life a little bit. So let's dive into that a little bit. So right here I've got the Van Outbound Tender Rejection Index for Ontario, California. You see that it was calming down quite a bit. Reefer rejections as well, going down to the floor. But then here in the last day or so, 6.37%, a big jump up from 5% yesterday on the Outbound Tender Rejection Index out of Ontario, California, which is the second biggest freight market in the United States. What we're seeing here is an increase in rejection rates across the board outside of the tweener rejection, which only had a marginal decrease here over the last day, down 0.02%. But everything else, capacity seems to have been tightening a little bit more on the West Coast here in the last day or so. So let's check out a few of these other big markets. Atlanta, Georgia was experiencing a moderate level of tightness here over the last few days. That seems to have ceased a little bit here. If you're looking at the reefer outbound tender rejection index, however, for the market, a little bit more reefer activity coming out of Atlanta as that rate jumps up. But the van, which is the majority of the freight coming out of the Atlanta market, van rejections are a little bit smoother here over the last day or so at 4.71% versus about a 4.8%. So the difference here is that the trend has changed. So if you're expecting to get more freight out of Atlanta, not so much here over the next day or so. So let's pick on one of the other bigger markets in the United States, the Joliet market, which is up around Chicago. Nothing to see here. Volumes are declining, rejection rates are falling off. Chicago market, tends to be a little bit more disrupted by weather. We're just not seeing that right now. You did have some snow this week, but it didn't really cause any significant impact to your traffic pattern. Volumes are falling down as well. Again, like the rest of the country in any of these markets, don't expect a lot of activity here over the next week or so, but by the end of the month, things may pick up a little bit, but we're in that doldrum period of the year, so just be ready for that. And that'll do it for today's Carrier Update.
The comprehensive logistics offerings from PowerFleet cover in-cab ELD, fleet management, trailer tracking, cargo monitoring, and tracking other assets such as chassis and intermodal containers. Power up your operations with PowerFleet.